What's going on, everybody? It's Billy Wayne here with our first official episode for Legacy United, a Righteous Project Inc. podcast. Just to let you know about our organization and what the podcast is about. The Righteous Project Inc. is a nonprofit organization. We provide free financial literacy resources to the youth in our community. We encourage people of all ages and people from all states to take advantage of our resources at righteousproject.org. And with our podcast, Legacy United, what we are here to do, we want to invite all local entrepreneurs, people that operate nonprofit organizations, people that earned their degrees and made something successful out of them, people that earned their trades and made something successful out of it as well, even people that are climbing that corporate ladder. You know, we want to hear those stories about where you came from, the things that you had to go through, the success stories, the struggles, all that, right? Everything that kind of built you to become the person you are today. We think it's important that, you know, people can hear those type of stories from people and folks that they can relate to, instead of just always hearing it from celebrities, right? And that's what we're here to do is to share those stories. And that's what I'm here to do is to share mine as well. First episode is about Billy Wayne and where he came from. So here we go. So I grew up, born and raised in Denver, Colorado. Grew up on the west side off of Tennyson Street, across the street from Rodriguez Park, I believe. And around age 7, I think 1991, we moved to Park Hill, which is northeast Colorado. And that's kind of where I grew to become the person I am today. And I did grow up with both my parents. Both were hardworking parents, always working their 9 to 5s, always on the grind. They had separate shifts at times, Monday through Friday. And I was the baby of the family, a baby of 5. So I did what all kids did. We went out, got into trouble, ran the streets, made a lot of homeboys back in the day. Shout out to my boy Chester, Victor, Lionel Mosley, and many others. A lot of people that I roll with. So, I did get into a lot of trouble. I've been robbed before. I've been in a lot of fights. Ran with the gang at the time, or even still to this day. Park Hill is considered blood territory. That's where I grew up at. And across the Colorado Boulevard was the east side, which was Crip territory. But the crazy thing is I did make friends, from both sides, so it was a crazy time for sure. But I was lucky to not get in, or get caught with a lot of things that, we did back in the day. But I did fight a lot, and kind of get into it. But, I was lucky enough to not, get charged with anything. So, I'm thankful for that. But anyway, so even at a young age, I gravitated towards music a lot, and I love to play the piano. I love listening to hip hop in the 90s. I used to write down the lyrics and memorize them and repeat them and all that. But I eventually wanted to become a producer, or owner of a record label. And I think a lot of people wanted to do it like that. But that's kind of where I wanted to do things, when I grew up. So I eventually got my hands on a Casio, a real cheap Casio keyboard, and a karaoke machine, and I used to spliced the wires, to where I could split the audio, hook it up to the karaoke machine, and I used to make beats, a cassette tape. I put it on the recording side, then I'll make a drum loop, then I'll put the cassette tape in the other side, new cassette tape in, and then record on top of that, the strings and the piano, all that, to where I used to make my beats. But it wasn't like how it is today. You just open up a laptop, download some software, and get to making music. We had to make it from scratch, So we did what we had to do, with the funds we had. But I did that for a while, and in high school I went to East High School for about a semester, and that's where I met my homeboy Lionel Mosley. And he introduced me to a couple of his friends as well, Bernard, which was one of the hardest beat makers I've ever heard. Even Lionel Mosley, very creative individuals. And I wanted to aspire to be like them. And they had a homeboy used to freestyle hard, real hard. His name was Kane, and he was from New York. And man, he could freestyle for hours, straight up. So, so I hung out with them for a while, and eventually, my grades started slipping a lot at East, and this was the first semester. So, I had to make that decision to transfer, and I transferred to South High School at that time, South Rebels at the time. Went there and didn't do the best, but I did a little bit better, enough to graduate, But I graduated with below a 2.0 average at that time. I knew I could have did a lot better, but it is what it is. So I graduated, went to community college for a little bit, and I went for audio engineering and a minor in business. But eventually, I dropped out because I linked back up with my boy Justin, and we were recording music. We were, making beats in his basement. We had the drum machines, MPCs, the mics, all that, and we were recording. So I figured I didn't need school anymore. So I did drop out of college at that time. And eventually, of course, without the knowledge of managing business or anything, being real young, doing whatever, the recording side of everything didn't go as we planned, but it's all good. But I did meet my wife at that time. I was working at Illages. I met Aisha at that time, and about a year later, we had my daughter, Shayla, and that's where I put all my focus into, was to make sure that I put food on the table, and we worked together as a unit, my wife and I, to make sure that we took care of our child, and that's where a lot of my energy went into. But of course, music was still my passion, and linked back up with a longtime friend of mine, Marcus Hayes, rest in peace. We linked up. We started making music together. We helped launch a label called Exile Entertainment. We had a whole group of everybody making music. We were doing what we could to hit the scene. Marcus had a huge impact on me, and that's why I named my third child Marcus. I named him after my homeboy, but he had a huge impact on me. He used to try to get me out of my shell, get me, to learn about the business side of the industry. We would go to the library and we would sit down and read about publishing music and all that, right? But I still wasn't in that mindset yet, So, eventually, with everything that was going on with my kids, it was hard for me to find a job. Kind of gravitated away from the music scene a little bit. And Marcus, he was still hitting it. He was hitting it hard, very passionate about the whole scene. And I was still hanging with Justin as well, still recording music here and there, but not enough to make ends meet. So that kind of went that way, right? So skip forward a couple of years. Is when I had to deal with some hard things. My sister passed away, Yolanda. We used to call her Nene. She passed away at that time and hit me real hard. Didn't know how I would deal with it. I did have a couple of kids and my wife at the time. But that was a very hard situation to get through. So, it was tough. And then not too long after, Marcus Hayes passed away as well, which was another blow to me. I couldn't really figure out, the reasons behind the things that was going on. But ever since then, I did make it a point to make sure that that what I did, was in good spirits and doing it for them. So that was a hard time to get out of. But going a little bit further, I eventually when I turned 30. I had to reflect on my life. I had 2 kids. I had my wife. I was working, but I was still not getting to the point to where I felt like I needed to be, for my family. So ever since I hit 30, I hit it with the mindset of going forward, Every decision I make is going to be based off of my experience from my first 30 years of my life, right? I'm not just going to make these sporadic decisions or not go towards and get something accomplished that I wanted to do. I'm going to hit it hard. So from there, in the job I was at the time, I was working for a pretty big company. I started making the moves again, moving up the chain, trying to make manager and all that stuff. So I hit that scene hard. And my boy Justin hit me up, had some connects from New York for some music. So I sent some music to some producers in New York. Didn't think too much of it, but from there, man, I was able to land some of my tracks on reality TV shows that I was very proud of at that time. And I still get a little bit of royalties here and there. Not much at all, but it is a very competitive industry. You got to be on it. You got to make a lot of tracks. You got to stay up to date. You got to just be on it. And I wasn't on it. I was still trying to figure that out. But I did make a little bit of progress in my producer aspirations. Still proud of that as well. But it helped me understand that things can be done. I can accomplish just about anything I put my mind to. And eventually, I became manager at my job. Started leading teams, getting out of my shell, doing presentations in front of VPs and all that, and doing things that I never thought that I can do, but through my recent experience, with the death of my friend and my sister, thinking about them, and eventually getting some tracks on TV, a lot of that kind of motivated me to keep going as high as I can, right? And that kind of led me to wanting to go back to school eventually in my mid-30s. So I went back to school, and with the encouragement of my wife and my kids, I kind of beasted my way through a couple of years of college, earned my associates. And at that time, I was like, I'm done. I'm not going back for my bachelor's or anything like that. But a year later, of course, I re-enrolled and started going for my bachelor's. And that's when my wife, she was pregnant with my third son, Marcus Aurelius. We call him Marcus Aurelius because that was Marcus Hayes' alias when we were with Exile Entertainment, and I wanted to name him after that. But on top of that, of course, Gladiator is my favorite movie, and Marcus Aurelius, is a prophet, from back in those days as well. But amongst those reasons as well, but Marcus Aurelius, that's where we got his name from. So I was going back to school, and it was tough. We had a newborn. At the time, my kids were already 10 plus. My two older kids, Malik and Shayla, were 10 plus. And I was going back to school. My wife was working graveyard shift. I was working 40 hours a week and as a manager, taking care of the kids. And then once everybody's asleep, my wife went to work. I'll get back to my schoolwork in the middle of the night, holding Marcus Aurelius in my hand while I'm doing essays on finances and all that, answering those questions, studying and all. But tough time. But eventually worked my way through it, got my bachelor's degree. Very happy about that accomplishment. But, once you get the degree, it's kind of like, what do you do from here? I wanted to keep myself busy, but I did learn about LLCs, sole proprietorships, nonprofits and all that. And at that time, I didn't figure that nonprofit organization was down my alley. So I did start a clothing line, Wayne Milton Enterprise. Started designing my own clothes because I love creating things. So created my own clothes, my own designs, pushing the product, figuring all that out, shipping costs and all that. A lot of that was very informative, to learn about, doing photo shoots and everything, and just really trying to figure out those things as well. And it was okay. I was able to understand and learn how to eventually make profit and the time spent behind it and all that. But skipping forward about a year or so into that year 2020, right before I earned my bachelor's degree, actually, kind of in the midst of it, we were all in lockdown. Everybody remembers that, and a lot of stuff was going on, protests, violence. A lot of things were going on. The youth, I was noticing that, they're lost and I was trying to sit back and think, what can we do? And that's kind of how I came up with the idea of starting a nonprofit. But what would it be about? So I thought about somebody in the corporate world that helped me out. He was an older guy. He's retired now, but one day he pulled me aside and he asked me if I knew what I was doing with my 401k, and I was like, nah, not really, So he offered, to sit me down for about an hour, and he gave me the best game of, stocks and all that I've ever learned ever in my life. Before that, didn't mean nothing to me, but he sat me down, he showed me my options, and he showed me how to review the history of certain stock portfolios and where to invest my money. And I put my money in certain things based off of that knowledge, and it helped me grow, my financial portfolio. And I think I earned back about 15% that year in my 401k. That really blew my mind, because before that, none of us really talked about it. We didn't talk about stocks or anything like that growing up. None of my homeboys. It was hard to really bring up that conversation with other people because, that's not a big topic, but as we all know as well, is that it definitely wasn't a topic in school either, as big of a topic as should have been. So that's kind of where I wanted to aim my focus at on starting a nonprofit, on providing these type of resources to the youth, because I think that's where it starts, right? I think it starts at understanding the basics of finances when you're young, which will greatly increase your chance of living a financially stable life going forward. A lot of us go into the world after high school already in debt, and then we spend the rest of our life trying to get out of it. But I think it's important that even if we give them the basics of banking systems, even stocks and all that, just really the basic information for them to understand, it gives them a better start, when they start in the real world. And I say that because I know some kids going to college, they're taking out these loans. We all know that, those loans are extremely difficult to pay back. Even kids with credit cards, they max them out and then trying to pay them off, all that. So I thought that's exactly the target that I wanted to aim for, is to provide these resources, and I think that's also an important piece of what's missing in our community. These kids are out there not really having that type of aspiration to live up to. They don't see no other out besides just hanging out in the hood. And we've seen it even till this day. Kids are shooting up the block, hearing gunshots outside still to this day. Kids getting shot. Teenagers, young, right? And I think back to when I was that age, getting into those type of things, and getting robbed at a point in time and getting into fights and, all that. So, I was very lucky to get out of that. And I want to make sure that I can pay it forward by trying to offer these kids another outlet, trying to teach them how to build a business, how to manage, their finances in a productive way, to where they can redirect their energy and then build something to where they are hopeful for something in the future. And it should cause a less of a mindset to go the other route, to feel like gangs is the only way to go. So that's really what is the basis around what we do as an organization. And that's how I got to where I am today, just from those experiences, and we started the Righteous Project Inc. because of a lot of that going on. And a lot of that kind of sprung out of the lockdown. Things been going on way before then, for sure, but trying to make an impact on the community was something that was there for me, but then it wasn't. It didn't really spark that interest or that motivation until the lockdown. So with all that, all my past experience, all the support from friends and family, kind of got me to where I am today. I couldn't get through college without the support from my family, from my wife, from my parents, anything like that. And I know a lot of people don't have that type of support all the time, and that's why it's important that they know there are those type of people that are willing to provide that type of support, just like us. And that's what we're here for. So, I'm pretty sure I left out a lot of details about my history, but eventually, going into more episodes, I'm pretty sure I'll share a lot more. But that's really it. This is Billy Wayne, and that was my story. Everything I gone through to get to where I am today. Very proud of my accomplishments, and I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of people out there that are, got the motivation to keep going. And that's all I can say is to keep going. You can accomplish anything that you put your mind to, right? So, that's the whole story in a nutshell. Thank you again for listening to our first episode. If you have any comments, questions, or anything at all, leave them in the comment section. We will be on YouTube, and we are also on RSS.com, Spotify, and Amazon Music as well. We will eventually get to the other streaming sites too, but right now we're trying to start. So the best way you can support, go ahead and subscribe, share your information, share the episode as much as you can, show some love. If you want to come up on the show, messing up. If you want to come up on the show, fill it out. We will provide the form to fill out. Come on the show, share your story. Just be out there. That's what we're all about, right? Just building that legacy united with the world. So once again, it's your boy Billy Wayne signing off. Episode 1. Thank you for joining me. You guys have a good day. Peace.